Okay designers, in this video we're going to look at how to use Fusion 360 to transform a sketch that we have made on paper and bring that into the Fusion environment and create a 3D model from that sketch. The object that we're going to be modeling is this device here, a GoPro. This happens to be the Hero Black 10, and we're just going to look at some strategies for how you might quickly develop this object. And you can see here, I'll hold it up to the camera, it basically consists of some simple shapes. We can see approximately 3 or more rectangles. We have the outer body of the camera itself, we have a LCD screen, and we have a little area where the camera lens is. This kind of provides some protection to the lens. Also beneath the lens are a series of holes, and I would assume those are allowing sound to escape, so they're probably speakers. There's about 9 of these holes. So let's dive straight into it and see how we can model up this product in Fusion 360. The first thing you want to do is make sure that you're in the design environment. Next, we want to make sure that your preferences are set up correctly. One of the things I've noticed is that by default, whenever we are under the design general preferences, whenever we're modeling for the first time, Fusion sometimes automatically hides sketches after you've created them. So you want to make sure that this option here, auto hide sketch on feature creation, make sure it is turned off. Okay, that's the first thing you want to make sure. Also, ensure that auto look at sketch. In other words, when you create a sketch, change the camera view to look at the sketch. Make sure this is ticked. Okay, so those are just 2 options we're going to change here in the preferences. Click apply and click OK. Right, so now we're going to go ahead and begin the process of sketching out the camera. We'll go up here and use the create menu. We're going to create a sketch. You'll note there is a button right here to do that as well. So we can click create sketch, and then we need to decide which coordinate plane we will sketch on. You can see I'm moving around these different planes. For this video, this tutorial, I'm going to sketch the camera on this plane here, the ZX plane. So when I select that plane, you'll see that the camera orientation changes to show me the plane I'm going to sketch on. Now, as I showed you in the opening of this video, there are basically 2 geometric shapes in the sketch, rectangle and circle. So you'll see after you have selected a plane to sketch on, Fusion shows you a sketch palette which has some options we'll look at later, and then the toolbar above changes to show you different kinds of sketch tools. We're going to use rectangle, the default one there, 2-point rectangle, and we're going to go ahead and draw those 3 rectangles that you saw. So I'll select that. Now when you're sketching, it's a 2-click process. So you define the point you want to start a sketch from. So I'm going to start here, snap to the origin. I click once, and then I'm going to move out from the origin, and the next click that I make will define the size of this rectangle. So I'm just going to click out about here, and you'll see on the screen I have sketched my first rectangle. I'm now going to go in a bit closer here and give this some dimensions. We don't know how big it is, we don't know how high, and we don't know how wide. Now I happen to have measured the camera, and I can tell you now that the height of the camera is 54, and the width of the camera is 71 millimeters. So to put measurements on a sketch, this is called dimensioning. And we can use the shortcut for dimension tool, which is the letter D. Now press D, you'll note my mouse changes and the cursor has a little measuring glyph just next to it. And now we're going to give some dimensions to this rectangle. So I'll click the line over here that represents how high the rectangle should be. I'll click once. And I'm going to move out to the side, click once more, and then Fusion will wait for me to express the measurement. That will be 54. I press enter. Next I'm going to give a measurement to the width. So again, you'll see the dimension tool is still active. I'll click up here once, move up a little bit, click twice, and then type in my desired measurement. In this case it will be 71. Okay, I have the basic rectangle for the body of the camera. Now I need to draw 2 more rectangles, and I'm going to introduce to you a shortcut now to go back to the rectangle sketch tool, because I'm currently on the dimensioning tool. You can see that I have the mouse and the dimension little symbol there. So I'm going to press R for rectangle as a shortcut, and I'm going to start the first point of the 2-point rectangle. I'm going to snap it to the top corner here. So I'll click once, it's snapped, then I'll pull out to create the second of 3 rectangles, just like that. Now I'm just going to also draw where I think the LCD display on the front of the camera is, just using another rectangle here. Okay. Again, we don't know the size and we don't know the positioning of these rectangles, so we'll use the dimension tool, letter D, and the measurement of this camera enclosure, this rectangle, the width is 30, press enter, and the height is also 30. And as for this LCD rectangle, it also is 30 by 30. Here I'm going to place the measurements just on the inside, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, so now I have 3 rectangles, and you'll notice that one of my rectangles is blue while the other 2 are black. When a sketch is black in color, it means it is what we call properly constrained. It's properly defined. It has accurate measurements and also a location. This one here is blue, and that's because yes, we can see the width and height, but we don't know the distance from this particular edge and this particular edge. So we're going to add in a distance measurement. With the dimension tool selected, I'm going to click the top of this rectangle and then the top of the larger rectangle. You'll see here it says at the moment 4. I'm going to make that measurement 7, and I'm going to do the same for this distance here. 2 clicks and that will be 7 as well. Okay, so there we have our 3 rectangles, all black, all properly defined. And the last part of the sketch we need to draw here is those 9 circles that represent the speaker. So I'm going to need to escape the dimension tool, so I can press escape on my keyboard. And now I'm going to just shift this measurement here up a bit, because I'm going to draw the circles here. Right, and I know from measuring this device that there are 3 columns of circles and 3 rows, and I'm going to use the center column of circles. I'm going to align it to them to the center of this rectangle. So how to do that? I'll use a line, and I'll use a special kind of line. Over here I will turn on a construction line. So I'm going to draw 2 diagonal lines through this rectangle. It's actually a square, isn't it? 30 by 30. And that's going to give me a center point. I'm going to bring the center point down, and then I'm going to accept this will be my last construction line that I draw. You saw I just clicked the little tick mark there, and I'm going to turn off construction line. Notice that construction lines are dotted. They're just for reference, and I've drawn this because I want to find the middle of this line, and that's where I'm going to start drawing the circles. So I'm going to move up here and grab the center diameter circle sketch tool, move in a bit closer here, rolling my mouse wheel, and then along the line I'm going to click once and draw a 1 millimeter in diameter circle. There it is. You'll see it's sitting nicely on the center line. And then I know that this circle, the distance from it, from the bottom edge of the lens enclosure, I'm going to use the dimension tool here, the distance from this line to the center of the circle is going to be 4 millimeters. So there's one of my 9 circles. I'll press the escape key, and I'm now going to use a pretty cool sketch feature called rectangular pattern to create the other circles that I need here. So I'll go up to create rectangular pattern. You'll see Fusion presents me with a menu. The menu has 2 options. I need to select the object that I want to pattern, and I need to select the direction. So I'm going to select the circle object, and I'm not going to define a direction yet. I'm actually going to use these arrows to define the direction, and then I'm going to just move down this menu to the first option for direction, which is the horizontal direction. And I'm going to change this from one direction to symmetric. You'll see why in a moment. So I click that, and then I'm going to click on and drag the horizontal arrow out, and you'll see that symmetrically in both directions I'm creating a pattern from this sketch. So I'm just going to pull out perhaps 2 millimeters. You can see the distance there. Another 2 circles, and then I'm going to click the downward arrow and pull this pattern down so that I have another 6 circles, so that I have my total of 9. Now I'll click OK, and I'll use the home button to just quickly move out and see the sketch. So you can see here I have 3 rectangles drawn, and I have 9 circles. Okay, and everything is all black. That's good. Everything is properly defined. So I'll now finish the sketch, and what I want to do is transform the sketch into a 3-dimensional object or body. To do that, I will use the extrude command. The shortcut on the keyboard is the letter E. The extrude menu appears. You'll see there are 2 types of extrusion. We're just going to use the first type. Profile, that means what sketches do you want to extrude. So it's waiting for me to select. So I'll do that. I want to choose the rectangles here, and also I want to choose the circles. Now I have 12 sketch profiles selected in total, and now I'm going to use the arrow that's presented here. I'm going to zoom out a little so you can see, to give this 2D sketch some depth. Again, I've measured the camera and it is 34 millimeters in depth. So you see I just put in 34, I'll press enter. Okay, now we have a solid body. You also notice in the browser I previously only had sketches, but now a new folder appears that says I have a body, and you note that we can turn the body on and off. We can also change the visibility of the sketches depending on what you're doing. I'm going to leave the sketch visibility on as well as the body because we're not finished with some features here. Okay, so what I want to do now is I need to bring out the lens protection here out about 7 millimeters, but I need a frame first. So to do that, I will show you how you can change the sketch. I need to essentially create another square just inside this one so that I have like a picture frame to pull. So I'll go to up here in the browser to sketch, and I'll right click and choose edit sketch because I want to draw another square inside this one to create a frame. To draw a perfect square that is inside of this one, I'm going to use the offset command. The letter on the keyboard for offset is O. You can think of offset as like creating a shadow of a shape or a sketch. With the offset command activated, I now need to choose a sketch to offset. I'm going to select this square. You'll see by default I have another square offset by 1 millimeter. I'm going to bring in this one. I'll type in a value of 4 and press OK. So I now have created a frame here. I'll choose finish sketch. That's what I want. I'll go back to the home view. The next thing I want to do is give this frame some depth. It extends out from the camera. So I will press extrude, and the profile that I will select is the frame, and I will change the direction. I want to bring the frame out, and I've again measured this previously, and the distance will be 7, so I'll put in here -7 and press. You'll notice the operation is join. There are other ways, other operations, but join is what we would like, and I'll press OK. So now you can see we have a little frame that protects the camera itself. I'm also going to press extrude, and I'm going to just press this in the LCD area, just give it a little bit of depth. I'm going to press it in by 1 millimeter. Press OK. And now I'm going to zoom in to the little circles that are for the speaker, and I'm going to do the same thing. I will use the extrude function, and I'll select each of these circles. Notice that I'm zoomed in to do this, and I'll push those into the body by 2 millimeters, and that will be a cut. Press home. Okay, now my camera is starting to take some shape. It's a bit boxy at the moment, so we're going to change that. We're going to round the corners of this design. To do that, I'm going to just turn the sketch off temporarily, and I'm going to use the fillet command. The keyboard shortcut is F. Fillet lets you round corners, so I'm going to select the edges of this model, and I would like to, you'll see an arrow appears that lets you manually drag to change the shape here. I've found that 5 millimeters is a nice radius for a fillet around the outside, and also we need to add some rounded edges to these parts of the area that protects the camera lens. So I'll use this little button here to add, or tell Fusion I also want to add some filleted edges to these parts, and those will also be 5mm in radius. We can click OK now and home and inspect our work. You have the beginnings of a GoPro prototype using 3 rectangles and 9 circles.